Let's unpack these questions a little bit more. First of all, who is God? Who is God? We can only be in relationship with a person to the extent that we know them. So if we're going to be in a relationship with God, and as believers we are in a relationship with God, with Jesus Christ, then we need to spend time with Him and get to know Him better and interact with Him on a regular basis. Knowing God and being in relationship with Him is central and crucial to all of life. We'll never understand who we are or what we are to do in this world if we don't know who God is. That knowledge of Him leads us into a deeper and deeper relationship with Him. And young adults, emerging adults, as all of us, are seeking to know who is God. Who is this God? Is He the God of my parents? Is He the God of the organized church? Is He the God of the Bible? Who is this God? One ancient mystic wrote this: "We are discussing the very thing that caused the early church to lose its life and beauty. It was the loss of a deep inner spiritual relationship to Christ. The church could be restored if this inner relationship were recovered." None of us have a big enough view of God. We all need to grow in seeing Him as infinitely huge, incomparably great and majestic, completely trustworthy, perfectly loving, absolutely dependable in every way. Help your mentoree grow in his or her intimacy with God in answering the question, who is God? Read scriptures together that will take you deeper into intimacy with Him. Passages in Isaiah, the last several chapters of Job, these are the kinds of, many Psalms, these are the kinds of scriptures that give us a big view of God. At the beginning of the course, I recommended several books, and some of those will help you and your mentoree get a bigger view of God. Books like Knowing God by J.A. Packer or Knowledge of the Holy by A.W. Tozer. Read those kinds of books together with your mentoree. The second big question is, who am I? As we grow in our understanding of who God is, we begin to learn who we are as His children. We die to self and our own ambitions and our own dreams, and we discover a new identity as we learn to see ourselves through God's eyes of grace, as we see ourselves through His forgiveness. Our identity becomes completely absorbed in Him. Galatians 2:20 says, "I have been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave Himself for me." Part of the answer to the question, who am I, is that I am absorbed in Jesus Christ. I've had my own struggle with identity over the years. I deeply identified myself as pastor for many years, and when that was taken away, I floundered for quite a while. As I processed who am I deeply embraced the reality and the truth that I am a child of the King, period. Regardless of my job, my career, my ministry, my occupation, that was my identity. That is my identity, child of the King. Help your mentoree to that same awareness. They are so desperately searching for who they are, and they will try to find it in so many false areas. Guide them in seeing that's who they are. As we answer the questions, who is God and who am I, then we start asking the question, what am I to do with my life? Ignatius, one of the early church fathers, would ask his mentorees to reflect on these three questions. What have I done for Christ? What am I doing for Christ? And what ought I to do for Christ? Which takes us to the third big question that young adults are asking. What am I to do with my life? What is my kingdom responsibility? Because I know who God is and I walk with Him in an intimate relationship, because I know who I am as dead to self and alive to Him, therefore I discover I have a calling, I have a life to be lived in service and obedience to Him. What we do with our lives must flow from who we are and who we understand God to be. Regardless of a specific career or job or ministry or vocation, every follower of Christ has a responsibility, a calling to invest their lives for the sake of Christ. And so at some level, certainly young adults need to find a career, a ministry, a vocation, and so on, but they need to understand that their calling is to invest their lives for the sake of the kingdom, regardless of what they do to make a living. Now, they don't necessarily have to become a pastor or go overseas as a missionary, but they are called to surrender their will to His will and follow Him in obedience. Help your young adults, your mentorees, to see that and understand that. Now, of course, help them understand how they're gifted by God and what that might look like in terms of service, how God has made them and how He might be calling them to pursue a particular path. Maybe they already have an idea of what that looks like. Guide them in it. Maybe they have no clue what to do. Help them begin to experiment with some things. Try some ministries in their church. If they think they're interested in an overseas country, go to that country on a short-term trip. Help them explore ways and areas in which they think they're interested. Keep quizzing them. Keep encouraging them. Keep supporting them as they seek to find out what they're to do with their lives. So there's the three big questions that every emerging adult is asking, and I suggest every adult is asking. Guide your mentoree in these, and as you do, you will discover answers for yourself too, I'm sure.